Hello everyone, Treecks here and welcome to F-Zero X Part 6. Or must I say F-Zero X Expansion Kit Part 1. Because after clearing all of the regular cups last time on at least Novice difficulty and even played a couple of standard ones already, because of needing to unlock the secret cup in this game, we are now done with that secret cup in this game on the lowest difficulty. And therefore, in order to continue with the lowest difficulty, we are going to take on the 2 expansion kit cups in the upcoming 2 episodes, officially known as Cup 5 and 6 in this game. And therefore, it's actually time to also start covering a different aspect of the expansion kit. We are quickly going to go in the create machine mode. Not to create a machine yet, that's something I plan on doing later. But there is actually something else you can do in here quickly. So, you guys are allowed to actually take a quick look on how this looks. You can look forward on coverage of this mode later. We are here to actually take a look at special machines in this game. You are allowed to actually create a machine of yourself. However, in this mode there's also super machines available. Pre-programmed machines that can actually replace the Blue Falcon, the Fire Stingray and the White Cat. And yes, indeed, that is something I plan on using. Not to be actually driving them myself, but we can actually input them as replacing machines over the regular in-game machines. So even the computer players can actually start using them. And this is actually how the Super Falcon looks. A new design of the Blue Falcon, only present in the F-Zero X expansion kit. So, what we can do with it, go to use, and if we then choose the file Super, we can select the Super Falcon and replace the Blue Falcon with it. So Captain Falcon now actually has a new design. Not just his machine, but also his picture, as you can see. And we can also do it with the Fire Stingray, replacing it with the Super Stingray. And of course, the third one, the Super Cat, which will actually replace the White Cat, driven by Jodie Summer. So we have 3 new, more powerful machines. All 3 of them we have seen, the regular machines, with that I mean in the project, so... However, we are of course also going to drive around on the DD-1 Cup, which will start off with a newly designed track called Silence 3 Outside Loop. The Super Falcon, and of course the other 2 new machines, which will be driven by computer players. But do allow me to actually show it off a little bit. As you can see, the machine is a lot more powerful than it previously was, having stats of BAA now. And Samurai Goro actually got redesigned in this as well. He looks way more awesome now. But the redesigning of the characters and how the machine looks is indeed not everything, because you can see it also has better stats clearly. This is how the Super Cat looks. And this is how Super Jodie Summer looks. That is one tough woman. Especially with those stats. A, A, B. Man. And the Super Falcon actually excelling in body and grip. Also a pretty awesome machine. And I must say, of all of the redesigns of the characters, I think this is my least favorite one. But of course, I'm not going to be using them. Computer players can actually enjoy driving these machines. I'm going to pick one of the characters we have not seen yet. Not even the regular characters. And my eye for this one has fallen on Dr. Clash, driving the Crazy Bear. A pretty eccentric mechanic who actually invents a lot of weird stuff. That's basically his story. And he has also invented himself an F-Zero X racing machine. That is his newest crazy scientific idea. Let's go take a look how the Crazy Bear goes here on Silence 3. Ooh, and the awesome regeneration music. Yeah, the F-Zero X expansion kit does not come with new designs of some of the characters, new tracks, new modes. It also comes with new music. We've already heard a little bit of Rainbow Road, and the Red Canyon and Whiteland music are officially also remixes, even though they do look like the originals. But the expansion kit also came with completely new music. Of course being used on the tracks of the expansion kit. Oh, and the jump failed. Apparently my max speed still was not high enough. Yeah, that's the whole reason why you always want to go for a little bit of high speed on this track. Because after the last outside loop you can actually do a jump. But you also don't want to put your max speed too high. Because, yeah, if it isn't obvious, this outside loop is also very dangerous. It looks really cool, making loopings on the outside of the track. But of course it is also very dangerous. If you go a little bit too fast because of being too far on max speed, or if you're stupid enough to boost in this section, you will of course fall off. Only at the final part you want to fall off, because then you can do this awesome jump, creating crazy high speeds, which you can use in order to catch up with these people, because even though this is Novice, these guys were pretty far ahead of us. That's the whole reason why I wanted to do that jump, even in the first lap. But apparently my max speed settings weren't high enough, so next time I need to go a little bit beyond. I believe 800 kilometers per hour is the threshold you want to stay under. I did try this out in the past a little bit. If you go over 800 kilometers per hour in the outside loop, then you will start falling off. So be sure to actually make use of the brake and of course the dirt areas around there in order to stay alive. Very difficult track to start with. Indeed, and that is not a coincidence. Because you can imagine the DD-1 and 2 cups were created in order to extra challenge the best players of F-Zero X. At this point you should know how to play the game, so the game becomes challenging. Next up we have Sand Ocean 3. Also a very difficult track, cylinder loops. And this is also a track where I want to go for max speed a little bit. It will also work wonders here. And this is a track making use of my favorite music in the game, Roller Coaster, so enjoy the music here. Yeah, the music already sets the atmosphere here. Really love this track because of it. Awesome. But okay, now for the track itself, if people want to leave me alone. The track itself is also very challenging. It's another cylinder as you can see, but a very compact one. Oh! See what I mean? It's a very compact cylinder, especially making use of loopings. Because of that, it's really easy to fall off this track. The dash plates do invite you to go fast through the loopings, however, there is a danger attached to it. Let's try that again. You don't have to be ashamed if you fall off a track like this. These tracks were actually designed to make you fall off, so that is not a shame. The best trick in order to try to stay alive whenever trying to go fast here is try to stay on the insides of the cylinder. Of course, whenever driving on the insides, it is a lot harder to actually fall off, although it's also pretty difficult to actually stay in the inside. But only on the inside of the cylinder you actually are safe. Only whenever going on the outside of the cylinder, then you are actually able to fall off. So try to prevent getting on the outside of the cylinder in the loopings. This first part is still relatively easy. With the loopings, I would actually advise not to go for boosting. It will only make you fall off. Especially this first part is pretty interesting. Double looping, intertwined in each other. Second one is a single one, but that one's actually inverted loop, so definitely not easier. Okay, 5 another lap, so let's go. Go crazy fast on this part. It's the only real part where you can do that, so final lap. Try to slow down here, so you can actually fall in the looping and not fall out of the looping. Interesting how Samurai Goro is actually our rival here, it seems. I gave him a new design and immediately he's like, yeah, now I feel like a champion. I am going to be your rival. Not too sure if I agree on that, Goro. I might start hunting for you in the next track. But okay, here goes Sand Ocean 3, the awesome roller coaster music. Definitely an awesome track. It is definitely worth playing this expansion kit, finally. Now that emulators are able to actually process the 64 DD. So, let's move on to track number 3, which is Devil's Forest 4, High Dive. Yes, this Devil's Forest 4 is the whole reason why we're playing the Joker Cup first. Like I promised, numbering actually continues here. So, let's go check out the new music here. And of course, the new track. And let's also try to kill this newly designed fire stingray. You're getting way too cocky, Mr. Goro, in your new machine. And your new outfit. I feel like hunting. Oh, narrow section. Where are you? Oh, you're already blinking, so my first strike was already kind of successful. There you go. Oh, also took a couple of other people out. Yeah, there we go. The high dive. Get Stuart or anybody else who wants to drive into my spinning machine. There goes Mighty Gazelle. Yeah, that should be enough. Let's go talk about this track next. High dive is actually a pretty interesting concept. You saw it in the first lap already, of course. But allow me to explain a little bit more in detail what happens here. The concept of high dive is actually based on a vertical jump. If you look correctly, you will actually see this turn over here actually leads to a vertical jump. As you can see, at the moment we start jumping, we can actually see the ground in front of us, and therefore saying we're driving vertically at that point. And then there will suddenly be a gap in the track. Therefore saying we make a vertical jump at that point, which is called diving in F-Zero. This one, in all honesty, not being really impressive. And therefore, in one of the tracks I actually designed for myself, I actually expanded this concept a lot more. So be prepared whenever the extra content of this game will start happening, where I show off all of the tracks I designed in the course editor, that this concept will return in a much more advanced way. But I actually really love this concept of diving. Bam! As you can see, because of the vertical jumping, you immediately get the high speed. Not like a regular jump where you first need to dive down with your nose in order to build up speeds. Here it actually happens immediately, because of already being with your nose down the moment you actually get loose off the track. Awesome concept. That is something I can definitely enjoy. And speaking of awesome concepts, so far we've seen nothing but awesome concepts, so perhaps track number 4 will also start making use of one of those. The Zig-Zag Crank is Port Town number 3. Also a pretty interesting concept in all honesty, although this one is not my favorite one to do. We have seen zigzagging in this game a little bit more often, but this one actually takes it to a whole new level. But luckily we are equipped with the double tap. We can use that in order to kill the difficulty of this track as well, at least hopefully. Mr. Goro here once again seems to be busy trying to invite me to kill him. Sir, you should not be riding around like this by yourself. You'll only end up becoming an easy target for me. Hey, stop gaining up on me. I thought this was Novice. You people should still be easy. But okay, that was Zig-Zag Crank, at least the first lap. The biggest downside of this track, and therefore also the biggest challenge of this track, I think, is the very limited possibilities to heal yourself. There's only one pit area on this track, and that one is not very great. So boosting is not always an option in this track. You actually can run out of energy pretty quickly here, since you're not able to heal it a whole lot. Right over here, after this jump, here's the pit area. And here it's already over. That's the biggest challenge here, especially since this final part has a couple of narrow sections. So you definitely need to be very cautious with boosting in this track. Preserving energy, especially whenever going on higher difficulties. Preserving energy is definitely a must in this track. And therefore it can also be very challenging to actually win it on the highest difficulties. On Novice, of course, you don't really have to fear the computer players yet. You can use Novice in order to learn this track and how it works, and what the best strategy is in order to approach it. So, we've seen Port Town 3, now let's go finish it. Next time we are going to visit this track, we will be challenged a little bit more. Getting destroyed by the walls, that is your biggest fear in this track. It can easily happen. But whenever driving around with double taps, that should be something you can avoid. Next up, yeah, indeed, we have another Devil's Forest in this cup. And this one is comparable to Big Hand from the Joker Cup. This one is actually a design course, just like Big Hand. Only this time we are driving around on a giant X Crossroad. The ultimate tribute to F-Zero X. But in all honesty, it is a track I really love driving around on. This is a track where you can go crazy fast. Even though it's as flat as a dime, there's plenty of dash plates here, plenty of cool turns to actually double tap yourself through. So getting speeds above 1,000 kilometers per hour and actually staying above that 1,000 kilometers per hour on this track. By double tapping through the turns, hitting the dash plates, of course boosting that will start from the second lap. Yeah, this track is definitely a joy to drive around on. Whenever going crazy fast. Do be careful for the turns here on the inside of the cross, because as you can see, those don't have guide rails, so make sure if you start going for double taps in order to keep your speed up in those turns, make sure at this part of the game that you have learned how to use the double taps in a good way, because those will actually keep you on the track if you perform them correctly, like this. You don't have to brake in those dangerous sections. The Crazy Bear is honestly not per se the best machine to use it, because of its heavy body. It's really hard to do proper turning with this machine, even when double tapping. However, so far it's going pretty fine in all honesty. One more lap to go. Yeah, because of this being a double layered letter, as you can see it has 2 layers in order to create a capital X. Because of that reason it is a pretty long track, so ending with a time around 2 minutes is not a surprising thing on a track like this. It is one of the longer tracks in this game because of it. Oh! Double tap failure! But luckily this is a machine with a big body, so I was actually able to get away with it. If this machine had an E-body, I probably would have died at that part. Hitting the walls so hard is usually something an E-body machine can't survive. But the Crazy Bear, it is a tank. And that definitely can't survive a blow like this. So, with 5 tracks out of the way, let's move on to the final one, which is actually also a designer track. Big Blue 3 is modeled after the country this game came from, Japan. And you can imagine being modeled after Japan. Yeah, this track is going to be hell. The turns in this track, man, they are going to be killing. The music is also interesting in this track. This actually makes use of the music called Japan, which obviously also sounds very Japanese. But it does suit the extreme difficulty of this track a lot. Because as you can see, there's a lot of very narrow turns here. But that usually is not the thing I actually enjoy the most in this track, even though it's very challenging indeed. But the thing I actually amuse myself the most with in this track actually doesn't apply to how I think this track is challenging. It mostly applies to how the computer players think this track is challenging. Allow me to actually get really far ahead of the computer players in this track, because then something very funny can happen on this track. I must address, this normally does not happen. It only happens if you're very far ahead of the computer players, comparable to the first fire field in the King Cup. Something similar can happen on this track. It is mostly because of the part coming up right here. This part, where there's mines on the tracks, in the turn. If computer players go too fast in this part, because of the rubber banding, this will happen. Bye guys! Okay, I would have expected it to be a little bit worse. But it looks like there's still plenty of people falling. But indeed, you've guessed it by this point. Comparable to Firefield and King Cup, this is also a death track, like I always call them. A track that actually becomes so difficult for computer players if you are too far ahead of them and therefore they need to match your speed. And they go too fast for their programming and the track will actually start killing them. Firefield is the first example of it. Big Blue 3 is actually another type of those tracks. And in fact this one looks like to be even worse. Because on Firefield you were The both times we went past it, 7 people that still finished, including myself. But it looks like in this track we actually get below that point, where almost everybody actually falls off. Not quite everybody, although we did get very close to everybody. It looks like only Beastman has been able to survive, which is also pretty ironic in one sense. I did not address the story behind Beastman quite yet, because we have not covered him yet. But Beastman's machine is actually also built by the Dr. Clash. So apparently those are the only machines suited for Big Blue. It seems for the duration of this project, Big Blue 3 is going to be a track where computer players aren't going to finish a whole lot. Even on the highest difficulties, of course, this is something you can do. However, we are not going to talk about the future of the DD-1 Cup quite yet. This was only Novice, so next time around we are going to do a different cup. These are the first 6 new tracks that Nintendo actually gave in the expansion kit. And for years and years, these tracks, these awesome tracks, have been unknown to the Western public because of the Nintendo 64 DD never releasing outside of Japan. Of course, I can kinda understand why, because the 64 DD add-on for the Nintendo 64 actually never really became a thing. Even in Japan it kinda became a flop in all honesty. But this expansion kit did release on it, so it was a waste that in the West we were not able to enjoy these tracks for the longest time. But thanks to 64dd.org, the good people who actually worked on that project, making a workable emulator for the N64 plus N64 DD, and therefore me finally being able to play my copy of F-Zero X expansion kit, which I actually did get in my possession at some point, but never a way to play it. But now we finally can. These were the first 6 tracks that got newly added in F-Zero X. However, there are 6 more. Those we will see next time for the final coverage of Novice in this project. See you folks then, and Treecks out.